that it's going to be a little bit more serious. Because today on the Morning Cruise, we're speaking to an organization that's doing some very powerful and essential work in our communities. This is the Rape Crisis Cape Town Trust, which has been supporting survivors of sexual violence for over 40 years, offering counseling, legal support, community workshops, and education programs to help break the silence around rape and challenge harmful myths. So joining us today is Michelle Bergh, a counselor and training coordinator at Rape Crisis, to talk about how they're making a difference and how we can all play a part in ending sexual violence. Is it Bergh? Bergh? How do you pronounce it?
Yes, that's correct.
Bergh. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mm-hmm. So our first question, for those who may not know, can you sort of briefly explain what the Rape Crisis Cape Town Trust does and who it's here to support and sort of what's it like?
Okay. So you mentioned that we've been around for over 40 years. We actually were established in 1976. So we celebrate our 50 years in existence serving survivors of sexual violence next year, which is very exciting for us. And 3 offices, one in Athlone, one in Observatory, and one in Khayelitsha. And obviously we have the Tutuzela care clinics, and we have some of our staff at the sexual offences regional court. So we are quite widespread. We offer counselling service, so crisis containment counselling service, which is basically 12 sessions for any survivor or supporter of survivors. So very often survivors, supporters, maybe their parents, their partners, a sibling, a friend, would also like some counselling and also have the opportunity to learn how to best support our survivors, because very often secondary victimization, can play a very crucial role in the healing process of a client. And while our family and our friends and our loved ones obviously try to support us in the best way they possibly can, this can lead to secondary victimization, which then means that the survivor is, not only having to deal with SAPs or the courts or doctors, friends, society, but within their own homes they struggle to get support, purely and simply because while family may have the best intention, they don't necessarily know the correct way in supporting a survivor. Then we also do, which I'm involved in, is the training and development side of Rape Crisis, which is very exciting, and I'm going to speak to you a little bit more about that. And then we have advocacy, which is also a very important sector of our organization. And I think I've covered mainly that. I want to talk to you a little bit about the training and development, though, and the education.
And could you describe what makes sexual violence in South Africa so widespread and urgent?
Well, different researchers and different academics will tell you various things, but there's no doubt about it in my mind. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and there's no doubt about it that, patriarchy shows up in our everyday life. So we have systemic cultures of patriarchy in our religions, in our cultures, in our social, our daily social lives, in our communities. And, that's the message patriarchy often gives, is about power and control instead of respect and consent, of course. And so I think, we need to address that. And I think, that's one of the important roles that we play in training and development, is to go and spread that word and give people a safe place to have these discussions around consent and around patriarchy and around control, because we know that, rape and sexual violence is about power. It's not about sex.
Still tuning in on 89.5 FM. If you have just tuned in now, we're speaking to Rape Crisis. As you know, that GBV in South Africa is still a huge issue. So now I want to know on my side, my name is Kusi, by the way, What services are available for survivors of sexual violence or rape crisis?
The services we provide are our crisis counselling, containment counselling, which means that we have a helpline, and I can share that number with you. We have a WhatsApp line, and we also have a face-to-face counselling service for survivors and for their family and friends. We also have the Tutuzela care clinics where we provide counselling, so it's a forensic clinic.
And so a big problem when it comes to gender-based violence is that many survivors won't report on the crimes that happen against them.
Oh, snap. We just lost her.
Yeah, seems like we lost her. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to play a song, and then we'll see if we're going to be able to get her back on the phone, because this is a very important topic that I think really deserves all of the
sensitive
airtime
one,
it can
too.
get. Yes. So let me play a song really quick, and then we'll get back to you.
Try what you not do if you're not the fair. My mind they tell me to disappear. So come and help me, cause I don't pray. My man, I don't pray. Come on, man, I can't stay for one place. Because say, my day, take my pain away from you. They are talking shit, what the no getting me? See you for force, I put up my eyes, that's short, my right, that's good. I cry, offshore, got my dreadlocks. Leave me, I don't pray, Mohammed, I don't pray. Come and beg, I can't stand for one place. Go say, my bed, come and ginger me. Only you to feel my best. Give me vitamins, we're gonna take these pains away. So
Okay, we're back. Michelle, I think we've got you back now, which is good.
Yeah,
so
finally.
Can you hear us? Are we good?
I can.
Okay, perfect. We are good to go then. So the question I was just asking was that many survivors don't report their assaults. So can you explain a little bit why is that? And as a society and as the Rape Crisis Center, how do you guys deal with that?
Okay, so we believe that as a feminist organization and really in support of the survivor 100%, we do believe that reporting is up to the survivor. In our country in particular, going through the process of reporting can be re-traumatizing. Once again, as I spoke to you about before, they are subjected to secondary victimization. So if somebody went to a SAP's office, perhaps if they are inebriated, SAPs may turn them away, which they're not supposed to do, or they may have to tell their story in front of other people that are in the charge office. So while SAPS is working at improving those systems, very often they don't actually happen. And not only has the survivor gone through this horrendous ordeal, but in fact they've then had to go through telling their story to their family or to their friends or to a forensic doctor. And sometimes they just don't have the energy or the wherewithal to want to go and be subjected to more questioning at a SAP's office, you know. So it is problematic, but we just feel that until such time as the systems are improved and that we know for sure that when a survivor walks into a SAP's office to report that they, you know, will be taken care of with, you know, with compassion and with empathy, we really support the survivor in whatever way the survivor chooses to walk their journey. They can also report at the Tutuzela care clinics, but they can also have a forensic examination without reporting. So we try and offer as many options as possible to the survivors.
And one other important topic is secondary victimization. What does that mean and where does it typically occur?
Okay, so as I said before, secondary victimization occurs when the survivor is encountered with additional trauma by people asking questions or accusing them of certain things. You know, very often somebody will say, you know, you shouldn't have walked around late at night, you shouldn't have been drinking, why were you there, you know, you shouldn't have been wearing a short skirt. So there are lots of social norms that kind of crop up, which cause secondary victimization. But it can really just also be as simple as somebody not, in fact, being supportive and allowing, when you've been subjected to rape or sexual violence, very often you are feeling disempowered, right? So the best way to support a survivor is to be as empowering as possible, to offer advice that's empowering, to be supportive in a way that is empowering, not to be critical or condemning their actions or their choices. I hope that answers your question. And I think that's why our training and development, our group discussions, our workshops in communities, at universities, in corporates and in government, they really are, it's important that people are educated because, this is the way we're going to challenge social norms and we are going to help to shift, the perception about what sexual violence is.
Again, if you have just tuned in now, we're speaking to Michelle Bergh from Rape Crisis, who's a counselor and also a training coordinator. So, Michelle, one of the crazy things, regarding especially gender-based violence or things like rape is most people forget about counselors. Because you remember when you're counseling someone, you come across these things that happen to this person, and automatically you also get affected emotionally or mentally. So I know there's a training for it, but how do counselors deal with such things?
Yeah, good question. Fortunately, at Rape Crisis, we're very well supported, so we offer our counsellors debriefing immediately after the session, and we try and give them as much emotional support as possible. And if they should feel that they need additional support, then we would, we would offer counselling for them. But they are well trained, and we do have our training is excellent, and we do training every year for new volunteers because the backbone of our organization is volunteers. So we have all these really amazing women that volunteer their time and their services to Rape Crisis across the board as counselors, as community educators or facilitators, and for the advocacy team. So yes, it can be a bit crazy, but I'll tell you it's very rewarding, and I think that's the key thing. And I know that might sound quite strange to some of the listeners, but it is a very rewarding job that we do.
Nice.
And so the Rape Crisis Trust also runs programs in schools, like the Birds and the Bees Project. So how are young people responding to conversations about consent and about rape culture?
I've got to tell you that I am constantly so impressed with our youth. And, we run the Birds and the Bees peer educator program at a Khayelitsha school every year, and then at a school on the Cape Flats every year. So, we are dealing with young people who themselves are living in difficult circumstances very often, where they themselves are subjected to, gang violence and all sorts of other violence. But it really is very heartwarming to see how on the ball they are, and how enthusiastic they are to make change. And I think that's important too, is that the youth understand that we are here to support them, because very often they'll go back to their homes and, their parents may not necessarily understand what consent means or what, patriarchal norms are. So it's great that they are able to offer them each other that support, but also to tap into the support that we offer them.
And you also teach public speaking, CV writing, and more. Why is that so important in the healing and empowerment process of young people?
Because I think, very often young people kind of are in the situation where maybe they are from disenfranchised communities, and maybe they don't have somebody at home who can help them apply for a study loan or how to write a CV. So in our peer educator program, it also includes leadership, and in doing that, we try then to offer them all sorts of opportunities to help them further their career once they leave school, or even for them, just to help them make a decision about what it is that they want to do. Very often they have been told by their families that they should go to university, when really maybe they would prefer to do something that's more artisanal, So it's to try and help them as best they can. That 2-year period that we work with them, we select 15 students at a school, and we work with them over a 2-year period. And during that period, we try and support them as much as possible with all sorts of skills.
Again, if you have just tuned in now, we're speaking to Michelle Bergh from Rape Crisis, who's a counselor and also a training coordinator. So, Michelle, we live in a time of technology. Everything is advanced nowadays. With technology advancing, how has online harassment or digital abuse obviously impacted some of the cases, Rape Crisis, seeing it? And also, what advice do you have for people, especially young people, on protecting themselves online?
Look, it's a very, very real issue, and sometimes, very often, I think the restrictions around digital use, whether it's a phone or a laptop, for young children, it's not monitored closely enough. So I would say it always starts, in the home. Make sure that you're monitoring the sites that your child is visiting, and make sure that they're age appropriate. But it is a very real thing, and it's something that we do try to address in our workshops and in our talks. And I think really the issue often is not around necessarily, say, youth talking about maybe 17 to 28. They seem to know what to do and how to protect themselves. But often it can be with these younger children or with older adults who aren't as aware of all the ins and outs of what can happen online. So we do try and assist with that. And we do have a helpline, a 24-hour helpline, and also obviously a WhatsApp line where people who don't want to necessarily talk to somebody, because we don't take voice notes or calls on the WhatsApp line. We only do the text messages. And, often we would get requests around what to do, And also around the legalities of perhaps something happening online and then the survivor wanting to post that, and how that can also, be a difficult situation. So we try to cover all bases. And obviously all our information is on our website, and we've got a helpline and the WhatsApp line, and so please, there's many, many fantastic resources on the website. So I would urge your listeners to just, scroll through our website, because there's lots of information there that can be downloaded, that can be printed, or can be shared.
That sounds incredible. It sounds like you guys are doing some really incredible work. And you sort of you jumped the gun a little bit on the question I was just going to ask you. Is like, where can people who are listening now reach out to you, find these resources, find out more? Is there social media, websites? Like, just give us the rundown.
Okay, thanks. So the Rape Crisis website is always a great place to start, and that's rapecrisis.org.za. But if you even just Google Rape Crisis Cape Town, it'll come up with all the information that you need. And then across all social media platforms, if you use @Rape Crisis Cape Town, whether that's X or Insta or Facebook. And then our 24-hour helpline is 021 447 9762. It's not toll-free, unfortunately, but if you phone that number and the counsellor that answers, if you let them know that you'd like a call back, they will call you back. And then our WhatsApp line is 083 222 5164. And then I would urge anybody, that is interested in training or group discussions or talks for Women's Day, Youth Day. We have free community workshops, which we offer to communities free of charge. But then we also have workshops that we charge for, which is great because, they obviously are revenue generating for Rape Crisis. And they can reach me on 021 684 1180. And thank you so much for your time. It's really been a privilege to speak to you and your listeners.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Cami and I both thank you so much. Yeah. So thank you for coming here.